All right, hello. Welcome to another episode, SportsBook Sports. We're all things sports betting here. My name is Greg. I'm hosting solo today. Connor's out for the week actually, so it's going to be me doing a couple episodes throughout the week. Today's July 19th, and we're going to be recapping our 100K challenge picks as well as giving out some more picks tonight. Again, just before we get into it, SportsBook Sports on Instagram and YouTube, SportsBook Talks on Twitter. Give us a like, give us a comment, interact with us on there. Let us know what you're taking. We're in the dog days of summer right now when it comes to betting. I know Olympics are starting up soon, but right now I know Connor and I are really focusing on the MLB picks as well as whatever we can get our hands on for the NBA Finals. So we'll talk about that a little bit. The way this series is looking, there's probably not going to be too many games left. The Bucks look pretty good. Where I left off last, I had a future bet in, two of them actually, on the Open, so we'll recap that. I had a couple other bets that ended up closing out over the weekend, so we'll kind of talk in all that when we go over our records. And yeah, so again, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. Give us a like, give us a comment, interact with us, and let's get into the results so far. So last weekend where we left off, I threw a parlay in on Saturday, and, we kind of talk about that. We go back and forth sometimes, Connor and I, on, what our thoughts are on it, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and I thought I saw some good value in kind of taking some heavy favorites on a Saturday. People are getting back into the swing of things after the All-Star game, and I ended up losing, I think, one of those games. So the whole thing was a loser. That was $250 to win $1,000. Like I said, I thought I saw some value with some of those picks in there. It ended up not working out, but that's okay. Connor had two bets. He had the Bucks +4, which is a great bet. I mean, they ended up winning outright for was it Game 5. So I know he talked about that a little bit. I think he's been reading the NBA pretty well and has a good pulse on that. So he ended up taking the Bucks +4. It was a great game overall. I mean, the series, even though it hasn't been two really big market teams, series has been great. It's been, I want to say back and forth, but the first two games obviously was very Suns heavy. Last three games very Bucks heavy. They seem to be getting it together. Holiday stepped up in a big way. Middleton's playing out of his mind in spurts, and then obviously Giannis is Giannis. He's looking like he's in MVP form. So I'm happy that he was able to play this series because it's just made it so entertaining throughout. The Suns are a young team. I think that comes through in certain times. You can definitely see that throughout the game at certain points. So one of my quote-unquote future bets I had was the Suns winning 4-2 in the finals. That obviously can't happen anymore, so that's a loss. So my record got updated. So Connor, he had the Bucks win. He also had the Rangers +1.5 in that game. Ended up getting rained out, I believe, on Saturday. It wasn't played either way. So that goes in as a no bet. So his record updates to 12-17. He's sitting at healthy bankroll, 8,900 right now. He's down about $1,000 on the season. With him, he bets, 500 a game or so. So those can, his bankroll can move pretty quickly, especially if he has a couple of good days, which looks like he has the last couple of days. So that's been nice. Myself, on the other hand, though, I'm stuck on this 11 wins, and I unfortunately added in about, I think, 4 losses, with the Bucks future getting closed out, not being a win, the parlay being a loss, as well as my 2 bets on the Open. And, I had Brooks Koepka, who I pretty much taken, especially in the big tournaments. I think he just kind of rises to the moment. At least he has for a while. I know that he got injured, I believe, last year, and he's coming back off that. And he just really hasn't looked the same since then. He hasn't really been competing at the top at the end of the weekend like you would expect him to. But I had Uzi there for the tournament, and I think I had him +3,000. It's $50 to win $1,500. And it was a nice bet. I was happy about it. Going into the week, just doing a lot of research on the Open, as well as, some of these guys, seeing what, other handicappers are taking. And that's why I think it's so important to, interact with us, interact with other people on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Read some columns, read some insights, especially on like covers.com or some of these other websites where they track people's records for you. So you can see, okay, maybe this guy is not the best overall gambler, but he has a great line when it comes to golf or a UFC or some of these more niche sports. And, I was reading a bunch of people. I was looking at a couple different golf things. And, I've watched golf here and there over the last couple of years. And I'm getting more into it as I get a little bit older. And I just thought that Uzi kind of had a shot to win this. I think he's placed pretty high in European events over the last 2 years. And I just think that he had a chance to contend on the final day. Of course, he comes out strong, ends up being the first guy, the leader after the first day. I'm kicking myself. That was plus 4,000 if I took that. He was a leader on the second day. He was a leader on the third day. But, of course, he ends up not winning the tournament. So that ends up going as a loss, even though he led the whole way into the final day. And, that's something I kind of want to talk about quick. We talk about different gambling strategies. We did a whole episode on reverse line movement. I think this was a great opportunity to kind of dive into, especially if you're a newer gambler, into hedging out a bet. With golf, it's nice because you get the whole day to kind of think about it instead of like putting in a live bet like you would with other sports, like basketball, for example, or baseball, which we have going on tonight. But I thought about it all night, and I kind of went back and forth, and I couldn't figure out what to do. And I was thinking about putting in, so I had $50 to win $1,500. I was thinking about putting in a bet on Spieth and what was the other guy who was in his group there? Morikawa. So Morikawa was 2-1 plus 200 going to last day. Spieth was 5-1 or plus 500 going into last day. And then Uzi was like the odds-on favorite to win. I mean, he was looking great all tournament. He was playing good day in and day out. And he ends up kind of just having a flat day on the last day. It wasn't necessarily a bad day overall, but Morikawa has been great, especially of late. And he came out strong. Spieth, he looked okay at points, but Morikawa ends up winning the whole thing. And, thinking about it, obviously hindsight's 2020. You could have put a bet in. I only had $50 on the line. So you could have even put a small bet in, say 200 on Spieth and 200 on Morikawa. 200 on Morikawa would have paid me $400. It would have covered my $200 bet on Spieth. It would have covered my $50 bet on Lewis, and would have netted me $150. You run the risk of all three not winning and that final group just completely collapsing and someone else coming out. So you do have some more exposure when it comes to it in the final day, but you could have put $200 or $300 on either of those guys, Morikawa and Spieth at the end, and could have really hedged it out, locked in some winnings. Again, not necessarily locking in like you would in other sports where there's only two teams or something like that, but this final group, they were looking head and shoulders above everyone. They were all playing pretty well throughout the weekend, and it was kind of a dreary course. It wasn't anything surprising. I think that Morikawa has been playing pretty good, especially this year. And, he came out strong on Sunday. He really showed up and played well. Spieth, he goes back and forth. I feel like he kind of just has really high highs and really low lows. And sometimes he's really not playing well at all. This tournament, I think he played pretty good. I think he had some good days. He just couldn't string it together on the final day when he needed it. But, that happens sometimes, especially with golf. It's such a mental game. So that's something, now, of course, that I lost. Thinking back and, hedging it out would have been nice, especially where I'm sitting. So, again, I'm sitting at 11-25 right now. Bankrolls at 81.46.74. So I'm down 1,853.26 on the year. So even locking in $200 or $300 worth of winnings would have been nice for me. Of course, one win. If Lewis plays well on that final day and I win $1,500, I'm right back to where I want to be, which is 0 at this point, and then moving towards the positives. So, I'm definitely going to be looking more into golf, NASCAR, these other events that have these longer odds, just because, with a $50 bet or with a $100 bet, you can put yourself in a great position to either hedge out and win a couple $100 or win the whole thing and win, a couple $1,000. So, again, plenty of golf coming up over the rest of the summer, so we'll be looking into that. We'll be looking into some more tennis. I know I'm going to take something in the Open when that comes around, so it's going to be exciting. So that's where we're at for the results right now. I think overall we're obviously not doing as well as we want to be doing, but I think we're kind of finding ourselves a little bit in this kind of challenge that we set up for ourselves. We're doing a lot of research, kind of looking at everything, and sometimes just don't think and throw kind of takes the cake. Sometimes you get hot, sometimes you get cold. So neither of us have really had a really hot streak. Neither of us has really had a cold streak so far. So hopefully we can turn that around, get something going, maybe starting tonight. So let's look at tonight's picks. So again, July 19th right now, SportsBook Sports on Instagram and YouTube, SportsBook Talks on Twitter. Give us a like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you're taking tonight. July 19th, there's a good slate of baseball, which we both looked at. We both found something we liked. Connor's going with the Orioles, plus 1.5. He's betting 500 to win 590. I think the Orioles have a new guy going on the mound tonight. Let me pull up that game real quick. But a guy that they called up a couple weeks ago, and I think he's pitched once or twice for them, and he looks pretty sharp. What's nice when you can find these kind of mid-season changes for organization such as Baltimore. So Baltimore right now sitting at 30-62, 17-32 on the road. You don't expect a lot from them when it comes to pitching, when it comes to hitting, any of that stuff. So on the other hand, you have Tampa Bay, strong team. Looks like they're probably going to contend for definitely a deep run in the playoffs, and if not, another World Series appearance. So they're sitting at 55-38, 28-17 at home. So it's kind of a tale of two teams right now. But this Watkins guy came out, his first, appearance in the season, one game, 4 innings, 1 earned run on a solo home run shot. So nothing too major, but if you actually watched him pitch, he looked strong, 6'2", 220, big frame. Just looked like he was kind of, has a chance here to get something going. So I liked the pick here from Connor. I was thinking about actually taking the over in this game, just because I think so much money is coming in on the under. If you look at the lines today right now, especially the public betting, there's 4 or 5 games where like 80 or 90% of the bets are on one team. So it leads me to think that there's some, sharp people out there who really have a good feel on this. And the Orioles, I think, have, a great shot to kind of get a sneak one here on Tampa Bay. So what's nice, too, is Connor's taking the plus 1.5 runs. So it's not the straight money line bet. So the odds are pretty close to 100 against 500 to win 590. And myself, I'm kind of looking at the unders tonight. So there's 2 games that have kind of higher over-unders than I expected. One of the games was Boston-Toronto. They're in Toronto tonight. I think the over-under in that game was 10.5. And the Mets and the Cincinnati Reds are playing in Cincinnati. And the over-under in that game is 11. And just looking at the games, just looking at the totals, again, the Mets and I think the Reds are the best over-under team on this list. The Mets are pretty bad. Boston and Toronto are surprisingly not hitting the over-unders as well as you would expect. Or the overs as well as you expect. So they lean towards the under. I'm not sure why both teams have such high totals. Right now in baseball, I think a lot of the games you're sitting at that, 8 or 9 run line or for the over-unders is pretty standard across the league. And then, the Colorado Rockies obviously probably get a run or a run and a half tagged on to each game. So, looking around the league, tonight you see, a 7 for the White Sox later tonight. They're playing a doubleheader, 7 innings, so that makes sense. But most of the games are 9, 9.5, 8, 8.5, 8. So all of a sudden you see the Blue Jays at 10.5 as well as the Mets at 11. And, as a Mets fan, I just don't know how anyone would take that. Maybe they know something I don't. But, again, been watching the Mets for a while now. And, both the pitchers going for the Mets and Reds tonight aren't the best. The Mets have had some injuries that they're trying to deal with. And pitching's been a problem, especially as of late. So maybe you could think that some of these teams are going to get on these pitchers, but the bats really haven't been there for the Mets. I don't think the bats have really been there for the Reds this season. So same thing with the Boston and Blue Jays. I think just a lot of teams think that these are 2 powerhouse teams coming into the All-Star break. The Blue Jays look like they were putting it together a little bit. Maybe have a chance to make a deep run into the postseason, but I think it's going to be tough for them just to make it in that division. It's a very tough division. Might be the best division in baseball. Boston's looking like a true contender this year with the way they're hitting. Their pitching has been hit or miss as well. So I think that's why the run line or the over-unders, are so high for these teams. It's just the pitching tonight. You're looking at a couple pitchers in both these games with ERAs in the 3s and 4s. But I just don't think the bats are going to be there, especially for the Mets and the Cincinnati Reds. So that's why I'm actually taking alternate run lines for both of these. So for the Boston-Toronto game, I'm just dropping it 1 run, dropping it from 10.5 to 9.5. That gets me to plus money, and that gets me $250 to win $325. So I'm pretty happy about that. Again, goes from like a minus 110 or minus 114 to a plus 130. And that's where I like to be. I always like to try to find something that's just a little bit of plus money. I really hate laying the juice and getting less than what I, put on the line. So the Mets-Cincinnati game, though, I'm taking that from 11 and I'm dropping that down to 9.5. So that goes, again, minus 110, minus 112-ish to plus 142 when you drop it a run and a half. So I'm excited about both those. I think that both teams, I'm kind of calling my shot. I think both teams are going to go under, and I think that by taking the alternate run line, like I said, I'm kind of calling my shot and hoping these guys are going to, pitch a 2-1 game. Again, if you're new to SportsBook Sports, we do everything on FanDuel. So if you're on FanDuel, you go to the Major League Baseball section. If you click more wagers under whatever game you're looking at, you scroll down, there'll be alternate total runs. If you click that box, it will drop down all the over-under alternates. So you could take it anywhere from over 5.5 to under 13.5 per game. Obviously, the odds change dramatically when you do stuff like that. So, yeah, you can really, the beautiful thing about FanDuel is you can really bet anything you want on this. And now with the new update they have, you can kind of watch the games as they go, depending on what game you're looking at. So, FanDuel's a great site. We love using it. That's where we get all our lines and get some inspiration sometime for some of these bets. So, that's our picks for tonight. 100K challenge. Again, we started with 10,000, trying to get to 100,000. At some point, we have no timetable on that. I know coming up, we're going to be talking about the NFL season, college football season, towards the beginning of August or so. So until then, SportsBook Sports on Instagram, YouTube, SportsBook Talks on Twitter. Again, you got my picks for tonight, 250 to win 325, Boston, Toronto under 9.5, 250 to win 355, Mets and Cincinnati under 9.5. And then Connor's pick tonight is 500 to win 590 on the Orioles run line plus 1.5. Again, my name is Greg. I'm going to be hosting this week. Connor is out. If you have anything you want to share,